So, as I've done 3 issues in the last video, although I only wanted to do 2, I've decided I'm going to do 3 in this issue because we've got one issue 64, which is the rear air tanks, which we're going to be fitting to the chassis. And then I think the next 2 episodes, 65, 66, look quite simple and we won't need the chassis. So I thought I'll take a gamble and I'll try 3 episodes. Sorry, 3 magazines.
I've pounded the road from coast to coast, Yorkie and me rolling on. 'Cause a long day's run can be short on fun without Yorkie to help me along.
So hello, welcome to issue 64. This is the rear air tanks. What I'll do is, I won't rush it, but I'll crack straight in and go through the parts. So this is the rear right tank top, and that looks a little bit stubby than the others, and that looks like it's going to go with piece number 6, which is the rear right tank bottom. And then piece number 2 is this one, which is the rear left tank top. This is a little bit of deja vu with these tanks. It looks like it's going to be pretty much the same. So piece number 7, I know I'm doing these out of order, but I'm doing them as I work across. So piece 7, rear left tank bottom, and then that leaves us with 3 is the tank rack, and then we've got 4 and 5, which are the same. It does state that they're same, and these are the U-shaped tank holders. They look more like N-shaped to me, but we're not going to be picky. And then 2 packs of screws, DD04 and DP08, and let's go for it. So we need to take the piece 3, the tank rack, and identify the 2 pegs, which are there and there, and they need to be that way. Let's have a look. So we need stage 2, we need to bring the chassis in, and we're looking for the other way round, and I can tell it's the other way round because you can just see a little bit of the what do you call that, the piston, the shaft, the drive shaft. So there's the pegs. So these are going to go on like that or like that. If we have a closer look, we can see that the pegs are that way. So I'm going to place it on like that, and that needs to be screwed in with 4 DD04 screws. So to make life a bit easier for me, it's not the same orientation as the magazine, but I'm going to turn it that way. And there's one screw gone popping out. Didn't lose it, but you can see why they give us spares. And where's my beautiful screwdriver? I have decided to suddenly be in a mess and can't find anything. Oh, that's a bit odd, isn't it? How a screwdriver can just disappear. But that's my life. There it is. There it is. Yeah, I put things down and I swear to God they move. They just get up and walk. Right, so that's going in just enough to bite, because obviously I've got this is moving around. So I just want to secure it into some sort of place. So I'm going to go the opposite diagonal corner, and then we can pop that in just enough to bite. Then that's not going to move anywhere. So I can focus on the 3rd and the 4th screws. This isn't my preferred screwing orientation, but given the weight and the size of the chassis, it's going to have to do. There we go. Let's go. They're all going in nicely. I'm just going to lift the bottom of the chassis up just to give me something to press against. Yeah, that's right. I felt something move as I pushed and it just turned out to be one of the electrical connectors, so that's fine. There we go. So I'm just finishing off the first and the second screws. I think these screws are just ever so slightly too big for this. Right, now I feel I could screw those in a bit more, but that rack is solid. Maybe a little tiny bit there. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Right, so once that's in place, I'm going to move these round. There we go. Okay, so what we want now is piece number 1, and we're looking for 2 holes. Yes, so you've got a peg there and a hole. I know it's hard to try and bring it up. So you've got 1 peg and 1 hole. The peg is going to go through that bottom hole. That leaves us a screw hole. So the peg is going to kind of position it, but that doesn't want to go. Why is that not wanting to go? Is there too much paint on the peg? Is the hole too small? Don't really want to force it. That definitely is right though. Right, so that wants to be secured with a DP08, of which there's 3 in the packet, meaning we only need 2. No, there's 2 in the packet. No, there is 3 in the packet. Okay, so I think I'm just going to turn this over onto its side. It's just going to give me a better hold when I'm screwing. Oops, saying that, it just wants to come over anyway. So I'm being very unprofessional, and I'm changing my screws heads. Do you know what? I seem to be suffering today from either screw head is too big or it's too small. Now that's not gone in, look. That's just totally wrecked that. So either, I don't think I got that in wrong. What it's done is it's just pulled all the plastic out. That's is that a defective, can I call that a defective part? That's not good. Do you know what I'm going to do? Where's my tweezers gone? There we go. I think that's actually my fault. Yeah, because that screw's come back out. I think I hadn't put the peg on properly because it wasn't fitting. So I may have to do a bit of a fix and work something out. Do you know what? I just hit lucky there. So although I put that in wrong and I stripped, see that raised part there, I actually pulled that off, but there was enough screw left that it will go underneath. Look, see, it's on there solid now. I was extremely lucky. So guys, don't make the mistake I made. Make sure that peg comes all the way through in there. I just had a very lucky, and that's come off again. Do you remember that in a previous episode? I'll deal with that at the end. Okay, so now we want to do the other side, and we want to do exactly the same. So that's going to fix on with 1 screw. So I am going to make sure that that peg goes all the way through. And I'm just going to strip out a little bit of the hole. I'm just going to widen the hole a little bit. Probably better if I use a file. There we go. But that's done the job. Because it's plastic, I can just wear that away with. Basically, you need the principle of a file is that you're filing with a harder surface, so anything will act as a file on anything softer. There we go, that's gone in. I'm sorry, I accidentally did that a bit off camera. I did not mean to until I looked up and I realised where I was. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit. I think the camera gets knocked as I work. Right, so that's in. So now we need to fit the top, and the pictures aren't great, but basically what it's telling us to do, see you've got a little hole there, but not one on the other side. Oh, there is one on the other side. Oh, does that mean that something should go? Oh, of course, right. So that explains that. So we need to fit this one first, because you see there's a connector there, and that is going to naturally match up with the next tank. So this being a push fit connection, we push that on there, and then this goes on. Make sure you fit it in the correct way round. So what is the correct way round? Right, so the correct way round, can you see you've got these little bits to line up with the tank holders? That's where it's going to line up, and you've got these bits that stick out. So that is correct, because this knobbly bit there lines up there. If you put it that way, you've got that bit is lining up there. So it's not lining up. So voila, just like that. Not voila, because it doesn't seem to want to go. There we go, and that's in. Easy peasy. So now we want to flip it over, and we want to finish off by putting these holders in. Now, do we put, I think we put the holders underneath. No, we don't. We need to put them round there. So it's a little bit of manoeuvring to do, and if those holes don't fit, we've got a little bit of work to do. Do you know what? That's gone straight in. Wow, so much easier than the last ones. Now it's going to get a bit tricky. It's knowing how to put the chassis on the work surface. Oh, brilliant. That's just gone in perfect. I'll see if I got the same luck with these ones. This one. So let's do the easy side first, because once you do the easy side, I think it's going to make the harder side a little bit easier. Any of that made sense. Perfect. That's just gone in really nice. This is an absolute dream piece today. Whether that means my luck will run out and later on in the build I'll have a really hard piece, but no, they've just gone in really nice. So those tanks are in place. Awful lot of tanks on this, isn't there? And that's that one complete. So we'll move on to issue 65. Oh, I just want to tackle this. This piece has come out yet again, so obviously it's not fitting very well. So what I'm going to do, I feel I have no option. I'm going to have to pop a little bit of super glue on there. I'm not keen on super gluing push fit connections, but if you've been watching, oops, nearly mucked that one up. If you've been watching all of my videos, you'll see that that's fallen off, what, 3 or 4 times. So that's going on there, and that's just going to sit there anyway, because we don't need the chassis for the next stages. So stage 65 is the left and right leaf springs. I think, to be more accurate, it's the left and right rear leaf springs. So 65, scissors, oh, do you know what, you know me, I'm not keen on opening packages because of the noise they make. Right, so I mentioned in the previous video about the way that these are made up, and you see that they're made up with pieces of just little planks of metal. Does that make sense? And they all work together. It's very much like the principle of if you tied a piece of cotton around something heavy and you picked it up, the cotton will break. But if you plait lots and lots of pieces of cotton together, they will all work together, and the amount of strength you can get out of them is phenomenal. Right, so pieces 1 and 2 are the same, and 3 and 4 are the same, but 1 and 2 is the rear left and right top leaf spring, and they're the smaller ones, and 3 and 4 is the rear left and right bottom leaf springs. And then we have 5 2.3 by 4mm PB screws. They're the only screws in this issue, so I'll just get them straight out, and I think this is going to be such a simple build. So we need to take piece number 1 and piece number 3, and we want to push that in like a piece of Lego to make a double bit. And you can see that you've got a peg there and a hole there. And then what we're going to do, nice and simple, we're going to just screw that in. Now obviously on the real Eddie Stobart this wouldn't be screwed in, this would probably be welded or something, but you know, for a 1 to 12 scale model that's quite sufficient. I think by the time you've got to this stage you know how sturdy this is. Right, so we now want to do exactly the same with the next one, and these are the same, so it doesn't really matter if you get them muddled up, does it? You know, if we put the top one on the bottom or the left one on the right or whatever we're going to do, because it did say in the magazine pieces 1 and 2 are the same and 3 and 4 are the same. The only thing that's important is putting that smaller one underneath the bigger one, which we have done, and I'm calling the top one the bigger one because now that's quite interesting. Look at the holes, like one sits underneath, one sits on top, but then so they're obviously going to go that way or they're going to go that way. I say obviously, it's not obvious. And that's it. That is issue 65 done. I knew it'd be a simple issue. It just, you didn't even need to look at the instructions. Sometimes you just look at the parts. And moving on to 66, which is the rear axle, you know, without looking at the instructions, to be honest with you, the complexity of the build, you normally look at the number of screws. You know, you could have 100 parts, but if it's only like one screw, how hard is it going to be? Right, so 66, sorry, top section of rear axle there, and then we've got in a bag. Let's open the bag, shall we? Let's use scissors, because I've got my scissors, so I might as well use them. Try not to cut the ends off. I think there's going to be some pipe work in there eventually. Can I sense a big long video containing only one issue? This is the air pipe connector, right, and I can see some air pipes. We've got DP07 and then we've got DP08, 2 in there, 3 in that one. So right, so we need to take the pipe connector and check the difference between the two sides. So we've got this little peg in the middle, so it's either going to point up or point down, and I think it kind of explains itself because you see there's a shaped pipe there, shaped hole there, so it's obviously going to go in like that, and that's going to be turned over, and that's going to be fixed with a DP08 screw. which is neither. Did I read the instructions wrong? Ah, that is a DPO. That looked like a DPO. Yeah, that's a DPO8. And there's only one of those. So that's just made our entire build simpler as far as the screws are concerned. Now I'm using this screwdriver because I think I needed a smaller head. And I really didn't want to change the head on my #1 screwdriver. Right, so I'm feeling for that to get stiffer. That's in nice and tight. So we've only got the one screw left, so I might as well get them out of the bag ready. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to take the leaf springs from before, and I'm going to call that pointing downwards, and you see this one that's on the end pointing down, that's, do you know what, that explains itself. Look, screw hole, peg, screw hole, peg hole. That's going to go in there like that, and I would suspect we're turning it over. Now this is interesting because we're going to fix that with a single screw. Let me check these screws. DP7 should be 3 screws. That's where I've got confused. So there should be 3 screws, but I've been a little bit lucky and I've got a 4 screw. So obviously if it's 3 screws, you know 1 is spare. And obviously, you know, I need 2 screws, and then I'm like, well, what's happening to the last screw? Right. Do you know what? I've done 20 minutes and I've nearly finished 3 issues. How cool is that? Right, so this is going to go on exactly the same way, and I can see how this is going to go. So as long as it's symmetrical, I can see that it's absolutely fine. Right, and I will check the orientation with the magazine, because if I've got these springs the wrong way round, it might be possible that I don't discover the problem for 10 or 20 issues. You know what these part works are like. Right, so with this piece there, they're longer this side, this bit is pointing that way. That's it, that's the completed work. So shall we speculate? Do you know what, I can see exactly where to go, and because you kind of get into the way of the thinking of the designers, just remember how that's gone in. I can see some joints there, so it's probably going to go in something like that. I think that air tank will be lower, so that's going to go, yes, look, that's going to go something like that. How cool is that? Now you can see why you've got these little stoppers there. I'm going to move my camera up because it means you can't see so much detail, but it does mean you can see more. But guys, this is purely technically speculation. I think it's going to go that way. This is not part of the magazine instructions, but you can see that it's going to go. But look where the stoppers are, so it stops the springs from going too far up. I mean, there will be no suspension on the actual model by the looks of it, but that's starting to look pretty sweet. So let's have a little bit of a cheat, guys. There's the back wheel, which isn't ready to be placed on yet. Or was it because I got it the wrong way round, you idiot Penny? So now you kind of get an idea of, you know, you put the wheels on, it starts to look very truck-like. The car is going to be there. This is where all the fixings is going to be for the trailer. And I think that is looking pretty sweet. So I'm going to mention, I'm not going to mention a name, but there was a YouTuber out there who I think has been upgraded to call my nemesis. But he was going to quit this build. And I said to him, look, continue it. It looks like it's going to be really good. Do you know what? I'm actually that wasn't meant to fall off, was it? That was pinned on. Right, oh I see, look. This pin's fallen off. That's not a problem. That's an easy fix. Yeah, and do you know what? I would rather someone I disliked build and enjoy this model than someone that I really liked give it up and then regret it later on. Although, do we think this will end up being an Agora build? So, right guys, sorry, when I pushed that pin in, obviously it didn't quite go in properly. Oh, it's very loose actually. So that might be an issue. I'll see what happens. I'll keep an eye on that. And if it falls out again, I'll work something out. Right, guys, so that is the end of that issue. I'm going to go now before it turns into a long issue. Very, very good 3 issues, actually. I'm really happy with that. I'm happy with the entire build. It's really coming along nicely. Yes, it's a little bit frustrating when, you know, that's all we've produced in 2 issues, but it's a nice 2 issues, isn't it? So, yeah, very, very happy. Right, guys, so next issue will be, at the very least, issue 67, which is parts for the rear axle. And that looks quite exciting, because that's obviously the top bit for this. And then you've got this bit there. It looks like a needle file, doesn't it? And then a few extra bits. And only 1 pack of screws. So, guys, take care. Have a wonderful week. I'll speak to you again.